Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle Edmonds with Idaho News 6, and welcome to Making the Grade. Plenty to talk about as we continue our Making the Grade segments on these Tuesday mornings. And joining me live is Kevin Richert from Idaho Education News. Kevin, good morning to you. I know we have so much to get covered today. And of course, we want to make sure people have the chance to comment and ask questions as we go through this. But we have to start with what has been captivating the news really since probably Friday, maybe even a few days before then, but the lead up to the fact that for day two, the state's largest school district has canceled school because West Ada teachers have called in sick. So as we look at what Idaho Education News has done with this story and what Idaho News 6 has done with this story, bring people up to speed about why this has happened in case they haven't been following this story.
Well, yeah, it all goes back to last week, Michelle, when the Central District Health Department came out with a new set of guidelines for Ada County schools. And what CDH said was that Ada County schools are in the red classification for coronavirus risk and spread. That's the highest risk level you can have. But CDH also said that it believes and recommends that schools can remain open at least part-time, that they can at least do a hybrid of face-to-face and online learning. That was the recommendation that West Ada worked off of last week when it announced plans to go to hybrid learning, which means every other day kids are in school. Half of the kids are in school, half of the kids are home, and they're attending schools on alternating days. Pretty much the same thing you have going on right now, by the way, in Boise schools, because the Boise School District took those CDH recommendations and acted on them as well. So kids in all grade levels in Boise, including now junior high school and high school kids, are going to school part-time. That's how we got here. But what happened in West Ada, teachers became very upset with West Ada's recommendations and West Ada's decision ultimately to go with hybrid learning. And what we've seen the past couple of days, hundreds of teachers calling in sick, forcing the West Ada district to cancel all classes on Monday and again on Tuesday, simply can't cover all of the classrooms, simply cannot hire enough substitutes to fill in for the teachers who've called in sick. So that's where we are on Tuesday morning, day two of the sick out. No news to report this morning as to where things are going from here, but clearly you've got the district and the teachers at loggerheads.
Well, and parents, as I am one of them, with two kids home from school today, yet again, for a second day in a row. Why is it, Kevin, that there seems to be what I would consider so much confusion? Because as you're saying, the Boise School District is following Central District Health recommendations and guidelines and doing a hybrid model. The West Ada Education Association seems to believe that that is not the proper case. Is this a lack of leadership?
I'm not really sure I would go that far. I'm not really sure I understand or can explain well so different in Boise as opposed to West Ada, because the learning plan, the schedule in Boise is the same as what West Ada is trying to do. Now, the teachers union in Boise has raised some concerns. They did raise some reservations about going to a hybrid model. And I'm sure you've got teachers who are uncomfortable with the situation, parents who are uncomfortable with the situation, who would rather see Boise schools go full-time, as you've got parents in West Ada wanting it. So I'm sure that there is still concern in Boise, but it has not elevated to this level that we're seeing in West Ada. I couldn't put my finger on why the issue is blown up so much in West Ada.
Kevin, one of the things we've talked about so much on Making the Grade here is the fact that school boards have the final say when it comes to plans for their local districts. They have to take the recommendations into account from local health departments. But here, yet again, you see where the two can possibly clash and really cause some confusion. Take me forward to what this means come January and what the legislature may want to try and do.
There are so many political implications for what we see happening in West Ada, and you mentioned one. the issue of the role of health districts as opposed to the role of school districts in school reopening decisions. I mean, yeah, basically you've got West Ada and Boise following the recommendations of the Central District Health right now. So, but even so, you've got legislators who are very concerned, have expressed dissatisfaction with the role of health districts as opposed to the role of school districts, and the political implications of what's happening in West Ada. You can't overlook that that's going to be a controversial issue come next legislative session. You're already seeing this on social media. You're already seeing backlash against teachers over this sick out. I think you're going to see that spill over into the legislative session when lawmakers reconvene and talk about issues such as teacher pay raises. You can bet that what's happening in West Ada is going to come up, and it's going to become part of that debate.
I wanted to quickly show exactly what West Ada has done as well in trying to be a bit more transparent when it came to their coronavirus case numbers. So maybe we can bring up a dashboard that they are now putting out, and you can find this via the West Ada homepage. It is under the About Us section if you want to go there. Kevin, you've also linked this to stories at Idaho Ed News, which has been terrific to be able to do a quick glance. Tell me what you're seeing by this dashboard, and what this dashboard, if people are going to look at it, Kevin, what should they be looking at in terms of these numbers and what's important? Because there's a lot of information here.
There really is, and I guess there are a couple of things that I would look at when I look at a dashboard like this from West Ada. The first thing I would look at are the recent trends. Are the case numbers increasing? How do they compare with prior weeks? And if you look at really all grade levels, especially high school, maybe most pronounced at the high school level, those case numbers have increased over the past few weeks. But the other thing that I would also look at, maybe the other side of the equation, is that cases per 100,000. That figure is interesting to me, and it's something I wrote about on Monday. Even at the high school level, where the case concentrations are highest, where you have 16.41 cases per 100,000, that number, the threshold really that Central District Health has been looking at, and the threshold that it used to put Ada County in the red, is 20 cases per 100,000. So that's kind of the breaking point that the health districts have been using to determine whether a county is going into the red. So overall, Ada County's cases are exceeding 20 cases per 100,000 residents. But when you look at West Ada schools, you don't quite get to that number at any grade level. And especially you look at elementary school, the numbers are a little bit lower than what you're seeing at the middle school and high school levels. And you're seeing kind of a mix of staff cases, student cases at all these grade levels. This is something West Ada came under some criticism a few weeks ago because it was not releasing any information at all about cases in the schools, as opposed to Boise, which has had a dashboard and has had a spreadsheet up since August showing case numbers by school. West Ada isn't doing that. They are aggregating the numbers and giving you district-wide figures. You can look at these and get kind of the big picture of what's happening in West Ada. You can look on Health and Welfare's website every Friday when they do the school-by-school breakdowns that they receive partly from the schools. So there are a lot of different ways to get all of this data, and we're kind of mining all of these data sources ourselves as we try to make some sense of what's happening in the schools.
So if you're telling me that Central District Health, as we have reported, is really looking at their major number here is 20 cases per 100,000. Am I getting those numbers correct?
Yes. Yeah.
If that's the case, is that why Central District Health is saying that hybrid learning can happen as long as that number stays less than 20, which is what you're seeing at each of the individual levels there, from high school to middle school to elementary?
I would have to think that that's a factor here. What Central District Health has definitely told the Boise School District and is on record telling the Boise District is even as case numbers have continued to increase in Ada County. CDH doesn't think that that's been linked to classroom activity in Boise. So that's part of the reason why CDH went to Boise and said, we're comfortable with the plan that you're putting out here of continuing with a hybrid learning model. So yes, I've got to think that CDH is looking at the same set of numbers that West Ada is posting, probably seeing more data, probably seeing more sophisticated data, and looking at that and looking at that relative to what's happening in the community.
And the other thing that those dashboards won't tell us, Kevin, is where the coronavirus cases are coming from. As you said, Central District Health is telling the Boise School District that they're not necessarily coming from inside the schools. So even though you're seeing positive cases of coronavirus, as no offense, anyone would expect under a pandemic that we are going to see positive cases, there can't necessarily in those dashboards be a connection directly back to a certain school or even school district.
Right. I mean, these dashboards that West Ada, this dashboard that West Ada has come up with is district-wide data and spread across the district with 38,000 students. It's impossible to pinpoint where these outbreaks might be taking place. And part of that is a student privacy issue. There are student privacy concerns here, and districts and charters do have to be mindful of that. I understand that. But at the same time, if you're a parent and you're looking at this, you can say, oh, interesting, there are this many cases in the high schools. I don't know if it's happening in Meridian High School or Rocky Mountain or Mountain View or on down the list. You can get those numbers again from the Department of Health and Welfare. Every Friday, they're putting out a list of cases by school. Now, that does not differentiate between students and staff or teachers. It just gives you a number of cases in a school. So if you're a parent in Mountain View or Meridian or Eagle, you can go to that website on Friday. You can scroll down. You can see what's happening in your neighborhood schools. And the way we're using that, the way I'm using it, is it's a way of us identifying some of the hot spots, maybe some areas where there have been high numbers of cases that we might not have known about. Some we do know about, some we're learning about.
You've been doing the same thing at Idaho Education News, Kevin, by tracking what's happening with COVID-19 on college campuses as well. And I've really found this helpful as you kind of do a weekly roundup of where college campuses land. And there's both good news and bad news, it sounds like, this week. And I wonder if that will continue to be the trend line that we're talking about.
Yeah, so the numbers on the college campuses, it was kind of interesting this week. We've talked a lot about the University of Idaho, and U of I has had some real concerns, especially in the Greek communities, in the sorority and fraternity houses, concerns about spread in those houses, in those residences. The numbers seem to be tailing off a little bit at the University of Idaho, and on Monday, the U of I went back to a more normal form of education delivery. And what that basically means is, for the past couple of weeks, the U of I has allowed professors to decide to take a face-to-face class and move it online. Now those professors are being told, if you started this class face-to-face, or if you started it in a hybrid, you've got to go back to that old original delivery model. So face-to-face classes, classes that started out face-to-face are supposed to be back to face-to-face starting this week. So some encouraging signs at the University of Idaho. You've got case numbers that are pretty much flat. It's a one case difference from week to week at both Boise State University and Idaho State University. So the numbers seem to be kind of flattening off or leveling off at those two universities. The one we're watching really closely, and a community we're watching really closely, is BYU Idaho. Last week we had really a bizarre story breaking out of BYU Idaho. University officials saying that they were concerned about reports that students might be deliberately contracting coronavirus so that they could sell plasma that has the coronavirus antibodies. What we are seeing for sure at BYU and Idaho, and it is continuing, is rising numbers in that student body, and we are seeing sharply rising numbers in Madison County, which is home to BYU Idaho. So that is definitely still an area of concern. It's an area that we're watching very closely.
One case difference at Boise State between the weeks, 53 to 54. Once again, the college reporting that many of those cases right here locally are happening in off-student housing. But the university, Kevin, as we have reported over the past couple of months, has set aside a block of rooms for on-campus housing in case people who are on campus need to be isolated. It certainly seems at this point, now a couple months into the fall, that those beds haven't really been overrun the way the college was worried about.
No, BSU has ample capacity right now for students that have tested positive and need isolation. And that's a big factor as Boise State tries to continue through this fall semester. I've said this before, and I guess I'll say it again. Really, for the universities, the big date on the calendar is Thanksgiving Day, and the big week on the calendar is Thanksgiving week, because U of I, Boise State, Idaho State are all going to go to a hybrid model, not a hybrid model, an online model after Thanksgiving. Students are going to go home for Thanksgiving break and don't have to come back to campus. The idea is that the universities don't want students going home, contracting coronavirus, bringing it back to campus, and triggering an outbreak for the final couple of weeks of the fall semester. So for Boise State's numbers to level off, for Idaho State's numbers to level off, for the University of Idaho's numbers to actually decrease heading into these final 5-6 weeks of the face-to-face aspect of the fall semester, that's got to give university officials on all three of the campuses at least a little bit of breathing space, a little bit of breathing room heading into these final few weeks. There's no guarantee that the numbers are going to stay where they are. Obviously, we would all hope that they do. But at this stage, just seeing the numbers slowing down or leveling off has got to be an encouraging sign.
Certainly seems to be that way. I agree.
And we'll be back with a new round of numbers, and we'll keep an eye on it and see where we go week to week.
Again, we're putting up idahoednews.org. If you want to get the very latest information, definitely go there. And of course, Idaho Education News has an app, which is fantastic, which I am able to get my stories updated all the time from you guys. So appreciate that. Before we finish up, I want to touch on one more topic, and this is going to become very interesting to watch over the next couple of months. It's the program that's launching tomorrow called Strong Families, Strong Students. And it's essentially a way for parents right here in the Gem State to get their hands on some actual dollars from the state to help pay for any kind of online hybrid learning. So Kevin, tell us a little bit about, again, how this program came to be, because the money is coming from the feds through the CARES Act.
Right.
But more importantly, what parents can expect and how the application process is going to work.
Right. So the application process, the window for applications opens on Wednesday. And what this means, Michelle, and you touched on it, is this is a grant program designed to help parents offset the cost of having kids learning from home. And that can take many forms. That could be the cost of getting a laptop if you don't feel like you have a computer at home that is adequate for kids to work and do their classwork online. It can be money to upgrade the internet connection at home, so that your son or daughter can do work at home and not have to go to the hotspot at the parking lot to upload or download assignments. It can be online learning materials and on down the list. And the grants, and these are grants that would go directly to families. We're talking about anywhere up to $1,500 per student or $3,500 per family. And application process will begin on Wednesday. You can submit, get money, I guess, ahead of time if you're needing to purchase equipment or upgrade your internet, or you can get reimbursement. So the application window goes through, I want to say, the first part of December. So parents have a couple of months to get their paperwork together and get their applications online. But yes, we're talking about a big chunk of money here. This is $50 million. It's coming from the federal stimulus law. It's earmarked just for parents and for families. So it's not going to go to the schools. It's going to go directly to households, to families that are trying to navigate this whole online learning experience.
The State Board of Education is the one who is in control of this money and the application process now. Kevin, how are they going to make sure that it's a needs-based grant?
Yeah, I think the details we'll see when the window opens up. But yes, it's designed to be needs-based. It's designed to. I think you're going to not only have to show that you have a son or daughter in the school system, you're going to have to show some sort of. I think there's going to be some sort of income criteria. I'm not completely sure about how they're going to work that, but that is going to be a component of this as well.
Do you think that the legislature will be looking at this grant to see who applies, how it works, and what it really does to move education forward?
I think so. Even though this is federal money, I think that this is a really good data point. You don't plan on getting this kind of data, but here we are in the middle of this crisis. You will get a sense now on the ground of parents and their challenges in terms of providing an online learning situation at home that's adequate, that's workable. So if this $50 million goes really quickly and you have this surge in demand for this money, that's going to tell legislators a lot about this digital divide that we keep talking about, this gap in online learning opportunities from household to household. And we're talking just about the equipment. We're just talking about the infrastructure that it takes to be able to do classwork at home. If you have this, money go really quickly and this money in heavy demand, I think it's going to tell legislators a lot about the state of this digital divide and the challenges of online learning in Idaho.
Who knew 6 months ago we would have so much more data on so many different topics when it came to education and health, right?
We're learning a lot, and we're learning a lot really quickly, and we're having to become experts in the digital divide. We're having to become experts in disease outbreak, virus outbreak. There's a lot we're having to write about all of a sudden, and we're just trying to stay on top of it in our shop. And I know you guys at Idaho News 6 are staying on top of it. It's a busy time and it's a challenging time, and we're doing our best to try to get readers and get viewers the information that they need.
Well, we appreciate all the work that Idaho Ed News has been doing. Really some tremendous stories coming out of there. And again, we can only get to a smidgen of them during Making the Grade. So I invite everybody to go to idahoednews.org and read up on so many of the really personal stories too. Those are the ones we can't necessarily talk about here, but so many of the reporters at Idaho Ed News do a great job of talking to real life people, right? The kids, the people at the parks yesterday when they didn't have school in West Ada, and really getting a feel for how people are feeling about everything they're going through. And you know me, I don't end a segment with you now because I miss you so much not seeing you in person. It's hard to believe we haven't seen each other physically since March.
I know.
That I know it's ridiculous. So we've decided to implement Kevin's show and tell, if for nothing more than so that I have a little bit of Kevin fun at the end of the segment. So what are you showing and telling today, Kevin?
Well, we haven't done a sock segment in a while. We've done other things.
Oh, fantastic.
We're going to go back to socks. And these just seem appropriate for any, especially this time of year.
Higher, Kevin. Higher.
No, not higher. No. This is why we don't do the sock segment as often as people might want. It's the Scream. You can see the screen. There we go.
I can see it. And I'm thinking that for a lot of people, that has nothing to do with Halloween right now, but how they're trying to deal with continued life during a
Yeah.
pandemic.
Yes, that's it feels relatable. It feels like we're all kind of in that place for whatever reason.
Thank you for your calisthenics this morning to show off your
No
socks.
problem. And good catching up,
Kevin,
even virtually.
once again, thank you. Thank you for being with us, for making the grade. We appreciate your insights. And if people want to read more, especially about the West Ada Teacher Sick Out and what is to come later today, as we don't know if there will be another day off of school tomorrow or not, we will be continuing to follow that both at idahoednews.org and at Idaho News 6. Kevin, I hope you have a wonderful day.
You too.
Don't
Hang in there.
scream too much.
You too.